I've just been given a fantastic present. No, not diamonds, but clay. A lovely builder's bag full of solid clay. Now, many gardeners think clay is just awful, but I've got very light sandy soil. But I love growing roses. Now, roses love a clay soil because it gives them a good supply of moisture and nutrients over time, and it doesn't dry out. And one of the best things that I think you can do in order to grow really good roses is to add a bit of clay if you've got a sandy soil. Now, you might think this is totally bonkers, and I obviously do add a lot of things like digestate, which I've got some here. And here's my digestate, and this it's been in a pile for some time, but it's lovely. It's basically from actual plants that put in lots of organic material. They rot it down. The gas that comes off goes to power stations or some sort of fuel, and this is the waste. So that's the lovely digestate, and I regularly shove that on. I've got bark chips. These are quite rotten down now, I regularly shove those on as well. And green waste. I've used a lot of green waste in the past. But you can put on too much nutrients to roses. I know a well-known rose grower who used to put green waste on his rose fields every year. And they built up the nutrients, especially the potassium, the K, to such an extent that the roses looked quite sick and they had reverse osmosis. So the soil was so rich that the water, instead of the solution coming up into the rose roots through osmosis, the actual moisture and solutions from the roses went out into the soil moisture, which was so rich. So you can actually put on too much manure. Now, if you want repeat flowering roses to repeat really well, then you need a good rich soil. And I like mine to repeat. I have lots of repeat flowering Austin roses, English roses like James Austin, and many others. And if I feed them really well with this organic type matter, they do well. Some roses, the less picky ones like Rosa mutabilis, some of the rugosa roses, the dog roses, things like that, they will flower pretty well anyway because they're really tough. But if you want to grow a range of roses, you've got a light soil, this is brilliant. Apologies for the noise next door, the neighbours are cutting down some trees, I think. So if you looked at clay under a very good microscope, you would see lamellae like sheets. And those sheets are negatively charged and they pull in the positively charged ions, potassium, magnesium, sodium and the like. And those ions, IONS, they're attracted into the clay. And so it has this absorption capacity for these minerals, which is really useful to plants, and then they pull them out as and when. And my sandy soil has none of that. And so therefore I'm adding clay. Now I did run through this with Tim O'Hare because I've been doing it, and Tim O'Hare's a very recognised international soil scientist, because I've been doing this for many years. As soon as I have a site with a client with loads of clay that they don't want, put some in the back of the car and bring it home. And he said yes, but he said obviously make sure it's dry. And so these are the wet lumps as they've come. So if I put that on the top of a rose plant, I think it would sit there for quite a long time. So I've actually dried some out. Now I'm going to dry the rest of it out. I'm going to put it in some place in the garden where it gets some sun and the weeds don't get on it. But here's some that I dried out, and you can see if you put a spade on it and just chop it up, it becomes much, much finer. And so then it will be more accessible to the plant. So what I'll do is I'll just put some of this around the roses, break it up to quite a nice So now I've broken up the clay and I'm just going to pop it round the base of the plant. It always amazes me when you dig up a rose, and I'll put some more on later when I've got some more, how the roots, there really isn't much roots above about 300 mil in the soil, above about a foot. They seem to go really deep down. And it will take time for this to work its way down, but it will do. It always amazes me when I put some on and I come back maybe 6 months, a year later, and I see no trace of the clay. I remember speaking to my uncle David Austin, and he was saying ideally you wouldn't have herbaceous plants and things growing around the base of the rose because they're competing for soil and moisture. But obviously we grow roses and we love roses, and they do look a lot nicer than if they are just growing in bare soil. So I'm now just going to put a bit of the mulch on the top. And obviously you wouldn't do this if the soil was very dry, because you would keep the dryness in and the mulch would absorb a lot of the moisture. So do it when the soil is nice and wet. Now I also add some things to the soil. A lot of people love manure, putting on manure for growing roses. But actually I find whenever I put manure on, I bring in weeds with it, bindweed, usually horrendous perennial weeds that are a pain to get rid of. So I've stopped putting even very well-rotted manure on my soil. I do sometimes go and pick up the cow pats from the cows, and they seem to have far less in it. It's the straw, I think, that brings in the actual weeds with it. Now you might say, well, what soil have I got? And a very easy soil test to do is the jam jar test. And you just get some soil, maybe a handful of soil. I put it in the jam jar last night, added some water to just below the top, and then I gave it a good shaking, and then I've left it for about 24 hours. And here you can see the different layers, and you can see there's a fair bit of sand there. And then there's the silt. So the sand is the bigger particles, they drop to the bottom more quickly. And then you have the silt, and then on the top you have the clay. And if you look, you can see all different soils have different profiles. But most gardeners know, I think. I mean, the previous garden we were at, if you walked across the field when it was wet, your boots had huge clods of clay stuck to them. So you could hardly move your feet, there was so much. Whereas on this soil, you know, even after quite heavy rain, you can dance across it and nothing sticks to your boots. You can also do the smear test and just sort of get a bit of soil in your fingers, add a bit of water and just see if it smears. The sandy soil, like mine, feels very gritty. I can really feel and almost hear the grit in the sand. And then you can sort of add a bit of moisture, a bit of soil in your palm of your hand and do what they call the worm test or the ribbon test. And you roll it out to see how long your worms can be. And if you've got a clay soil, you'll have lovely long worms. If it's something like mine, you'll have next to no worm at all. So we do like clay. It can be a pain when you've got lots of it, too much. But when you've got a sandy soil or a light soil, having some clay from a friend that's trying to get rid of it is really, really useful. It's the Cation Exchange Capacity, i.e. that ability of those lamellae to hold on to the positively charged particles and moisture that is a real benefit. In sandy soil, we don't have that, and all the water and nutrients tend to leach through. So, nice little job. This will go in a nice little pile in the woods somewhere. I'll put something over it so it doesn't get wet, and it will slowly dry out. And probably next autumn, I'll be putting it around my roses.